last night was the 3A and 4A state semifinal games down at Peoria.
Some great games last night.
Yes, there was.
Yeah.
Some come from behind stuff.
Right.
And, we have somebody who was actually there.
Yeah.
Our friend Jack Gleason was down there, and we've asked him to come on for this first segment today and talk about stuff down there. Jack, hey, how are you doing? Good. I can't believe you're up already.
Hey, Dave. Hi, Matt. How are you doing? I can't believe I'm up already either.
Yeah, and Twitter comes in handy. You don't have to wake anybody up, so it's kind of nice that way, you know? Hey, let's talk about last night's game. You were at the all the games yesterday, I think, right?
Right. I was at all four.
Let's talk about our team, Auburn. What did you think about Auburn? They got down early. They come back, and it looks like they were going to pick up a win, and then Curry picks them up at the end. But a really good performance by a fun team to watch.
Right. They played, got off to a really slow start. I think they were behind 13-0, 15-0 in the first quarter. They played their usual brand of really pressing and playing fast, playing aggressively. Did a really nice job with that. I think Curie fell asleep a little bit after they got that big lead, and Auburn just, the pressure got to them. And they continued to do that, finally got back late in the third quarter. I think they took the lead. I know it was 43-43 at the end of the third quarter, and then they led most of the fourth quarter and just couldn't hang on against Curie. But I think they put on a really nice show, and it was just a typical Auburn team.
I was going to say, I mean, it's always amazing me. I was talking with Coach Ott about it after the super sectional game, and they've done this for years, just, you know, because they have really no size. I know they got Evans, who's 6'5". That's something they don't usually have, but they really have no size. But the way that they use their quickness and their intelligence to defend bigger teams is just amazing to me.
Right. You're right, Matt. And it's almost like they out-public league the public league team in terms of their pressure defense with no size, and out-rebounded them, too. I mean, I can't think of how many tip baskets or baskets under they laid in that I was just surprised, because Curie does have some decent height. They have two players that are 6'5", and both very aggressive underneath the basket. But no, Auburn was Auburn, just like they always are last night. And they've definitely, I've seen them play at Hinsdale Central at Christmas time, so they've definitely improved. There's one player back, I think, that wasn't there at Christmas time. And I don't
Evans. Yep. Evans was a big kid.
Okay. Well, that was a key player coming back.
And he never played organized basketball before, like his junior season or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Not bad, huh?
Tyler was great last night, too, like he was. I know the game I saw at Hinsdale, he had 30-plus points. He played really well last night. No, they had the game there. I was actually pretty sure they were going to win. I didn't see Curie, just their aggressiveness. Curie is not... Curie's a little bit more disciplined for a public league team, and so they were really caught off guard by that.
You know, when you look at it, it was a very physical game. It took a long time to play, but I think they were, like you said, they really got into Curry's head. And, you know, it's just been a fun team to watch this year, Jack, and the fact that they play real hard.
It is. I would have loved to have seen the second Boylan-Auburn game after seeing Boylan again Tuesday night. As I've told you guys before, that was one of my favorite teams this year. And of course, I was at the game Tuesday night and was devastated when they lost to Manual. Which was a really, really good game.
You know, what was kind of the sense around the arena last night as Auburn was kind of up late, you know, because we pay attention. I think everybody just kind of assumed it was going to be a Curie against Simeon final, and you know, we'll get to that game in a minute too. But what was kind of the sense there late as Auburn was up and looked like they might be able to pull that out?
Well, you've got a neutral crowd in the building. I'm not sure what their sense is. I think that and especially when it happened in the afternoon, people didn't know what to expect. And when you watch the game and you see the pressure that Auburn puts on, I think they look probably better than they really are. And Curie probably didn't. But Curie's not a dominating-looking team when you see them play. They don't come out and you say, wow, they're going to blow this team out by 30. They're just solid. They're solid at so many positions, and they have so many guys can score. They got guys who can score inside. They got guys that can score outside. So, but they're not, you know, they're not overwhelming, and they don't overwhelm you.
You know, you look at Curry, and they're a city school, of course, and their coach is, I would say, very controversial. He walked off the floor to Michigan City, Indiana game. They had to forfeit that. He's been suspended before. Is that kind of a wild atmosphere when you get to a Curie game, especially when you're at Curie?
Yeah, it is. It is a Curie. He's got Mike Oliver is very animated. He has quite a temper, yet he's a really nice man. And you can tell, I sat just a couple rows behind the Curie bench last night, and obviously I've sat close to the bench at Curie as well, but you can tell the kids like him. And, I've talked to him a few times. He's just a really nice person. He has a, Jekyll Hyde personality. But he was on his best behavior last night. He was really calm. They also have their assistant coach, Larry Wallace, is a really sharp young guy. He's actually a Chicago police officer. So he doesn't work at the school. So they're a little bit. They look out of control, but they're much more in control than it appears.
It doesn't hurt to have a police officer on the bench in a Chicago school, though, does it?
It doesn't. There's a couple schools I can think of off the top of my head that have that as well. It adds an element of professionalism to the situation.
Yeah, I bet.
We kind of look around the rest of the tournament down there. I know a lot of people are surprised by the Simeon loss. I mean, what happened in that game?
It was typical Bennett last night. I keep referring to Bennett as 5 gym class rejects. I think the 5 starters, I think 3 of them next year will be able to make their dorm room intramural team at college. 2 of them aren't going to be able to make it, though. They won't be able to play in the intramurals. But with that said, they are so solid. The ball very seldom touches the floor. They move the ball until there's an open shot there. They play really solid man-to-man defense, and they just don't get rattled. I mean, there's a team that is, I think, 31-3, has played a really strong schedule this year. And when I saw them the second week of the season, I thought, hey, these guys are going to lose, 15 games, maybe be 500. But there's just something about them, and now they've got this confidence as well that they've built up through the season by playing the schedule that they played. So while that was surprise, it wasn't a shock to me.
You're the only one that didn't say that last night. All the other Chicago sports writers said it was a shock. It was the biggest upset in the history of basketball.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it a surprise how people are calling it such a big upset? I know we've got the talent disparity, but, when you talk about a team that's 31-3 at that point, I mean, it can't be a huge shock, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, no. Michael Bryant's been joking and saying all year that Bennett's going to win the state tournament. What I saw yesterday, as I walked out of there thinking about it, is that we talked about this the Saturday before the season started. We talked about parity, that this was a year of parity. There were no super teams. And yesterday was the perfect example of why that was. You ended up with 2 upsets, and you ended up with 2 really close games that almost went the other way. And I guess the teams are just so close this year, and you don't have the superstar team, you don't have the superstar player, and this has been going on all year, where there's games that I've said, I look at the score and I go, how did that happen? Like last night. So, I mean, this will be really curious to see what happens tonight when Bennett plays Curie, because I think Bennett's going to give Curie a lot of trouble. They're just that kind of team that Curie has trouble with. They played last year, not this past Christmas, but they played the Christmas before at the Pontiac tournament, and Bennett was not as good as they are this year. And Curie was probably, they were probably the same as they are this year. Bennett blew them out. So it'll be very interesting to see. But again, yesterday's game showed how even the year has been team-wise.
A lot of people complain that a lot of players left the state. They went and played some prep school stuff and did some things. How big a deal is that?
I guess we laughed about it in the summertime, and I used the example of college basketball where it was the doomsday scenario when the players started going to the NBA after 1 year and, the tournament won't be great anymore, but it's exactly the same. It's actually more exciting. Or as exciting as it ever was. And I think the same way in high school. You kind of forget about those kids that are gone, and someone takes their place. Now, maybe that's why we don't have the superstar players this year, because you lost 2 of the best junior players. One of whom is supposed to come back this year to Chicago, Alonzo Burge.
He's back already, and he didn't even stay the whole year.
You're right, correct. I don't know where he's going to end up going to school. But
they're recruiting him in the city schools, Jack.
You think so?
Oh, sure. Don't they recruit everybody?
So I think it's just the same.
When we look at 3A, was there any sense of disappointment that Morgan Park wasn't down there?
I think so, although the flip side of that is that Lincoln Way West brought a huge crowd yesterday.
13 buses?
Yeah, 13 buses, and I mean, they were really into it, and they are a fun team to watch, and they're good. They're not, in this year of parity, they're a very good team, and while that was probably the biggest upset, was them beating Morgan Park. But them winning that game yesterday against Manual, that was an upset, but not of super magnitude. I think that Manual was one of those teams that could play really well, and then they could just disappear at times. And to some extent, I think they did that yesterday.
Lincoln Way West is probably going to go. They're probably all going to go to 4A from what everybody's talking about next year. All those 3A schools because of enrollment and success factor and stuff. But that white kid that plays the center for Lincoln Way West, he could be on any farm team in Ohio. I mean, he just looks like a big old farm kid, and he is fun to watch. Though I loved watching him play yesterday.
He does. He's a great shooter. He plays hard. He walked by me last night. Just going by. You're absolutely right, Dave. But no. What's happening in Lincoln Way is that they have 4 high schools are going to consolidate down to 3.
Yeah, North is closing, right?
Right, North is going to close, so that will probably flip them back to 4A. I assume, what happens with Boylan? Does Boylan go back to 4A next year?
I'm not sure. How do the success factor? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the success factor will play. But I also know their enrollment has been dropping every year, so I don't know, how their numbers will look next year if they drop enough to maybe offset the success factor. I'm not sure.
Okay, Boylan's enrollment's been dropping?
Yeah, the last few years.
Oh, interesting. So
if you want to go to Boylan, there's plenty of open spots, folks. That'd be good.
I already did my Catholic education. Talking about Boylan in the game Tuesday night, which, as I said, was a really, really good game and came down right to the end. Mike Winters, I sat pretty close to that bench, and the calmness that he showed at the end of that game with all that was going on, that just, I think, bleeds over to the kids. I think the kids played, real calm at the end with all that was going on and how close that game was. It was really neat to watch.
He worked with us on WROK doing ball games, and I always take credit for all his wins, Jack. So,
okay.
Hey, I'll tell you what. Did you know about Peoria Manual? Are you familiar with the A.J. Youngman kid at all?
I've seen him play now probably 4 times.
Well, I'm going to be doing a story on him today. The kid, his dad is Jim Youngman, okay? And he's coached at about 20 different schools since 1994. He was even here in Oregon for a year.
Okay.
A.J. Youngman, his dad took him down to Kentucky so he could play in 8th grade in varsity. He scored 1,000 points his first 2 years at a brand new school down in Kentucky, scored over 1,000 points. Transferred to Morton his junior year, didn't like it and left after 4 games and ended up at Manual. I mean, it's kind of one of those stories like, wow. And also the Dixon kid, remember we talked about the Dixon kid from Freeport?
Right.
He played for Youngman at the Kentucky school down there. So
it's very interesting. I knew Youngman had quite a track record.
Yeah.
He had been a lot of different places. He's obviously a really streaky shooter. He's just a streaky shooter. I'll leave it at that.
He was all Kentucky when he was an 8th grader and a freshman, but I didn't see that yesterday when he played at all. I didn't know about the Boylan game. You were there.
Right. No, I haven't seen that at all either. The Boylan game was the best game I've seen him play. He had stretches in that with his 3-point shooting that really helped. But, I didn't see that yesterday. I didn't see that at Pontiac at all. Now, I'm not sure that they use, Manual doesn't, like he's kind of on his own to get his own shots, I think.
That was very nice how you put that, Jack.
We look at it, we got 4 games today. What do you see when you look around at those games today?
Well, I think the 3A championship, off, they didn't overwhelm me yesterday. They didn't even look as good as they did last year, but that just may be the one first game in Peoria this year, and maybe they weren't as focused. They should be able to take care of Lincoln Way West pretty easily.
That's what Morgan Park said too, Jack.
Yeah, I know. That's what Morgan Park said too. So we'll see. And the fact that Lincoln Way West did beat Morgan Park in a similar type situation, maybe they can hang with them. The game at night, as I said, I think the game at night is a toss-up. And it's all going to depend on who has control of the game. if Curie can speed up the game and get Bennett a little rattled, they're going to control it. If Bennett does what they did last night, where they continue to move the ball and get open shots, they'll control the game. And if I get a lean one way or the other, that's what I think is going to happen, is that Bennett will be there the entire game against Curie.
You know, we talked about Peoria over the past couple of months. How was the attendance there yesterday, Jack?
You know, the attendance wasn't the greatest. The 3A games seemed to have more people there, probably because of that Lincoln Way West crowd. At nighttime, interestingly, I thought Bennett would have more people there. They didn't. It'll be interesting to see what they have tonight. I thought Auburn had a pretty nice crowd yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the typical, you know, the lower bowl was pretty much full, and there was a smattering of people upstairs. Sure not like the old days, that's for sure. I was sitting next to some old-timers like me, and they were commiserating about the whole thing. And, you know, the four classes, I think the four classes has just thinned out the crowd. I don't think that the casual sports fan goes as much as he does. It's dependent on the schools, and then when you get schools that, you know, primarily the city schools don't really bring a big following, so therefore you don't have a lot of people in the building. I think the third place game tonight, the Auburn-Simmons game, I'm curious to see too. The one, I thought about this last week at the 2A, the one only redeeming value of having the third place games on Saturday is that it gives the teams time overnight to forget about what happened the day before to some extent. And so the third place games are better than they were in the past, when they were, you know, 3 hours after you lost, and they really could care less whether they were there or not. So the Auburn-Simeon game should be interesting. We'll see if Simeon bounces back.
Yeah, that was going to be my kind of question is, you know, do you think that they will bounce back, or, you know, could they be in that situation where, you know, they had their eyes focused on one prize and now that it's not there, they might kind of check out of that game?
They were devastated last night. They were definitely devastated. I think you could see the frustration on their faces that they couldn't seem to solve the Bennett situation. I think they bounced back. I think that, you know, those guys are pretty much seniors on that front line, the first 5 or 6 guys. I think they'll want to play one more hard game. But when they see Auburn out there going 100 miles an hour at them without letting up, you know, it'll be interesting, because I think Auburn will play hard. I think Auburn will be there they'll be focused.
Real quick, Jack, we got about a minute left here. We talked about the attendance there for a second. Is there any solutions to try to get that back up?
Well, as we talked about, I think the solution is to try a different venue, maybe Chicago, and see what happens, especially for 3A and 4A. I think at the Sears Center, even at the Convocation Center at NIU, that would be a perfect building for the state tournament. That's a beautiful facility and has just the right amount of seats. So I don't see it, though, with the 4 classes in Peoria. They tried really hard. It's, you know, the people here are trying really hard, but it's just they're getting caught by the 4 classes.
You eliminate the third place games and you play all 4 classes the same day. It works in Wisconsin. It works in Ohio. So that's my solution, Jack. How's that?
They may try it, see what happens.
Yeah. Hey, Jack, thanks for coming on, man. I just love it when you're on here with us, and thanks for giving us your insight.
Thank you very much for asking. I appreciate it.
We've been talking with Jack Gleason from HSBball.com, and he's fun.
He is. He's great.
And he tells you like it is.
Yep,
There's none of that
exactly.
stuff.